So let me get this straight. The American dream is not working for your dreams, but it's laying around and sleeping and drifting your life away because of government subsidies? Oh, what a White House spin and a crock. We'll talk about that next on Get Right with Lenny McAllister, starting right
now. Get Right with Lenny McAllister.
You stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerve herder.
The way we help bring back America and we build the bridges and bring people together is by making sure we hold everybody accountable in a 360 fashion.
So let me close with this. Yes, there is a change that we can believe in, but it will never come from a politician or a government program.
We got to move away from the American Idol soundbite nature of politics and back to the American statesman of humble servant leadership that we used to see in politics.
It is time to reel in government. It is time to roll out the era of the new American citizen.
If we can continue to get some common sense governing from both sides of the aisle, we can finally get Americans through the recession, not just Wall Street.
We need people that can change the crisis that we're seeing. And that's why, as a proud Republican, I go through the jail ministry. I speak to the kids in the streets. So I'm never going to lay down being a Republican or being a conservative, just as much as I'll never lay down being a proud African American.
Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Get Right with Lenny McAllister. I'm jumping right into this. You know the deal. You know what we're going to do here. We're going to talk back and forth on Twitter, LennyMcAllister. On Facebook, Two Walls, same name. Love to get your feedback. I'm jumping right into this because I cannot believe, especially with the unemployment numbers that are going to come out on Friday, especially considering that last month, 74,000 jobs added, 300,000 people jumping out of the workforce, lowest workforce participation rate since 1978. And this White House, when they see this report, and you know what I'm talking about, if you don't, I'll recap real quickly. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says that over the course of roughly the next 7 to 10 years, we are at risk of losing upwards of the equivalent of 2.5 million full-time jobs or full-time job hours, if you will. Those 2080s per year that a full-time employee would put in. We're at the risk of losing 2.5 million of those within 10 years, or by 2024, by 10 years, I should say, because of Obamacare. Because people will have, I can't even believe that they put the spin on it like this. People will have the freedom to leave the workforce in order to get a government subsidy, in order to sit at home and be on the government dole. This, here's the thing. Agree or disagree, you know where to find me. I generally resisted people calling President Obama the 44th president of the United States of America, the first African-American president. I have resisted calling him a socialist that wanted huge government and nobody to work and the government to pay for everybody and have single payer everything and break down the American society. For years, since 2008, I have resisted saying it. I don't like hearing it. When I hear the S word thrown around, I go, let's argue on specific issues. Let's not take blanket statements like calling him a Marxist or a socialist or a Kenyan or any of that other stuff. Or a Muslim. I mean, you know the deal. We know what's been said about this president. I mean, you go on Twitter and you see him with, the latest thing, I think I saw it earlier today, was somebody putting up the little plate that they put in front of you when you get arrested, when they do your mugshot, and they Photoshop that in there and say, let's make this happen. Woohoo! I've always resisted that. But when I see the White House try to spin that report and tell people that they have the freedom to leave full-time jobs in order to get subsidies, in order to stay at home with relatively no income coming in, or at the very least go from 2 incomes to 1 or 3 incomes to 2, or 1 full-time, 1 part-time to only a part-time, that's freedom? In this economy? Hey, look, I'm still not going to use the S word. I'm still not going to call him a Marxist. I'm still not going to call him a Kenyan. I'm not going to do any of that other stuff. But I am going to say this. If that's the spin that this president is taking on the CBO report, then we are starting to look at the end of work in America if this mindset continues. Now, for the New York congressman that said that this president deserved a third term and we should get rid of presidential term limits, this is why you're crazy. I'm not going to even sit there and say that it's just misguided. No, it's crazy misguided. Because, and this is why I've always called for term limits in Congress too, because of examples like that. But aside from that, when you have these type of ideas and you're on the wrong path for this long, which this economy is, and you have somebody that influential trying to spin bad news in order to save their political carcass, which, by the way, it's no longer President Obama's political hide. After, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan, basically got thrown out the window. After these economic numbers continue to be bad, and after the Democrats have basically said, I don't want to be bothered with you, President Obama. If you come to my state, I will be busy. Sewing, knitting, washing my hair. There's been some kind of excuse with several different key Democrats as the president has started to tour the country post State of the Union address. As these things have transpired, you're not talking about a political hide anymore. This is a lame duck president at this point. You're talking about a political carcass that's out there. And when people are trying to save their political carcass because they don't want to be picked off by the crows and the jackals and the hyenas and the vultures and everything else, you get this type of spin where people tell you that you're talking about liberty and freedom. They literally are taking Tea Party language, which has to be driving Tea Party people nuts. They're taking Tea Party language and infusing it into this bad CBO report to tell people that you now have the freedom to be underemployed or unemployed because you can have a government subsidy to take care of your health care. And eventually we'll get to your mortgage or your rent. Oh, they do have Section 8 for that. Or your food. Oh, we do have food stamps for that. And all those things are going up, not down. By the way, who's going to bring in the tax revenue to pay for those things since the federal government is not Apple, is not Macintosh, it's not Microsoft, it's not Facebook? Agree, disagree, you know where to find me. But after hearing this from this White House, if you are a big supporter of President Obama and you can't find fault in that spin, I'm going to say this out of love, as Tavis Smiley likes to say. I say it out of love. Say it out of love. I'm going to criticize the hell out of the president, but I'm going to say it out of love. Which always makes me laugh. You know, I like Tavis. I mean, you know, I know a lot of people don't, but I like Tavis. I've met him several times, done some things with him, et cetera, et cetera. As far as State of the Black Union 2009, We Count 2010, other types of thing. That's fine. But back on track with this. If you're a supporter of the president and you think that this spin that came out from the White House late Tuesday night going through Wednesday about the CBO report and the 2.5 million jobs or equivalent of 2.5 million jobs in regards to labor hours, in regards to workers being in the workforce, however way you want to put it. And I know there's already people saying, well, it's not the jobs that will be lost, it will be people that will choose not to work. And these are choices that Americans have because they are being liberated to enjoy their God-given freedom to be on the government dole. If you believe this spin from the White House and you're a supporter of the president, there's nothing that this president will do that you think is wrong. You still blame everything on George Bush. You still take everything back to 2008. You ignore the economy from 2006. You ignore the economy coming back from the recession in 2003 and how strong it was in 2005. You ignore all the stuff that happened in the 2000s because you blame everything that's going to happen over the course of the 8 years of President Obama's tenure as President of the United States. Everything from 2009 to 2017 is going to be George W. Bush's fault, the 43rd President of the United States. And there's nothing that anybody can do or say to you to convince you of this. The spin that came out on Tuesday going into Wednesday is going to be George W. Bush's fault. It's his fault. Obamacare is his fault. The economy being bad is his fault. The spin Tuesday is his fault. Reigning in your community is going to be George W. Bush's fault. You are not going to hold this president accountable for anything. Now, and I love you still. I love you as an American, as a child of God. I want the best for you in your life. I don't hate you. I see you as a patriot. Let me be clear with that. I may disagree with you on a lot of things, and I may think that you're absolutely nuts in a kind way, because I'm criticizing out of love. Just want to make sure I clarify that out of love. I need to say that you're nuts when you think that. Not insane, not need to be locked away. That's different. That's mental illness. And I would not joke about mental illness. I'm joking about you being politically nuts, because you are politically nuts if you think that this spin is okay and it's accurate. Or you're just a partisan, which may be the same. Because there are a lot of partisans that will just go into whatever regardless of what the truth actually is. And that's a little bit more insidious. Because if you're willing to be that partisan, then you don't really care if the country's getting ahead or not. You're just going to make sure your party wins. And you can find that on both sides. So for the rest of everybody else that's out there listening, again, agree, disagree with me on Twitter and on Facebook. For the rest of you that are listening, that are paying attention to this, you gotta sit there and really question where this country's going if there's a segment of the population that buys that argument. That buys the argument that in a hard economic time, which doesn't seem like it's turning around anytime soon, nobody's encouraged that the job market is really going to rev up in 2014. In fact, we'll see what happens on Friday, but we're starting to see bad manufacturing numbers. We're starting to see a lot of tension, anxiety on Wall Street with stocks coming down. We know what the jobs report was last month. When you start seeing all these things, you're not going to sit there and tell me that if you see these things now, and there's no encouragement for 2014, and there's no real huge encouragement moving forward, and the unemployment rate has been dropping, but not because we're adding 300,000 jobs to the labor force. It's because people are not looking for work the same way anymore. And if all these things are the case, if somebody tells you that people are going to actively, involuntarily give up one of those precious full-time jobs that has some sort of health care benefit to it, some sort a 401k plan to it, some sort, if nothing else, if it doesn't have those two things, it at least has economic stability. You know that check is coming at least twice a month. And if you're getting paid every other week, it may come 3 times in a month every now and then. If somebody's going to tell you in these economic times, with the last several years that we've had, and no huge optimistic outlook moving ahead, that somebody, and not just somebody, about 2.5 million somebodies are going to jump out of the workforce in order to get a government subsidy or free health care? And we're watching the food stamp rolls go up. We're watching unemployment rolls go up. We're seeing people still struggling, and it'd be very interesting to see what's going to end up happening with this unemployment vote that's coming up this week, whether it's Thursday or Friday. All these things are transpiring, and you're telling me that the United States of America, by way of their White House, by way of this administration, by way of the Obamacare law that was put into being, by way of a 100%, not 100, I meant to say it like that, just put emphasis on it, just saying 100%, see, now I got me stuttering all over the place, 100% partisan vote. And a surprising Supreme Court decision, which basically didn't even call it healthcare reform. It called it a tax in order to allow the law to ride. People forget these things. People talk about, look at all the jobs we added since it was passed. It was passed 4 years ago. You know, we need, I think it's 200,000 jobs per month on average in order to just keep up with the population. not get rid of the unemployment, not stimulate the economy. Just keep up with the population, and you continue to see 74,000, 125,000, 175,000, which 175,000 compared to 74,000 is great. It's still not even enough to keep up with the population growth. Do you understand where we are economically? And those of you that are not Obama cheerleaders, those of you that did not purchase your pom-poms, those of you that were not dancing with Richard Sherman on the sideline after the interception because President Obama was in the stands or some kind of crazy contortion of several different events that did or did not happen. If you're not one of those cheerleaders and you're looking at these numbers, you know that when you hear this White House spin this report the way they did, you know that this White House has not only very, very, very little political credibility at this point in time, but they also are so focused on the politics and the optics of the politics of this that they're less inclined to come to you with the truth. Now, I'm not one to call President Obama a liar. That's another thing I don't really get into. A lot of people do that in social media. President Obama's a liar. He's a thief. He's a crook. Don't do that. But with that said, I will absolutely say that this White House is telling a fib this time around. They are spinning this in a very ugly way. You can spin a bag of dog poop on a merry-go-round in a playground as much as you want, but it still stinks every time it swings past your nose. And that is what is transpiring today with this CBO report and what the White House is trying to do. They're slinging around this bag of poop and telling you that it's actually a bag of now and laters, but you just can't have any to eat right now because it's a bag of now and laters spinning around on a little merry-go-round thing that's just too fast for you to pay attention to or to get a grasp of. But just trust them. That's really what it is. This White House doesn't have any more credibility, folks. And I won't even go into Benghazi. Because I know, if you're in the middle or on the left, you still don't even want to hear about Benghazi and how that went down. So I won't even go there with you on Benghazi. But I will sit here and tell you about Obamacare. I will sit here and tell you about the stimulus package. I will sit here and tell you about the economy. I will sit here and tell you about the campaign promises from 2008 to reunite this country. I will continue to tell you about all the times that they were supposed to work with Republicans in 2009 and 2010, and that just did not happen. There are plenty of instances, sans Benghazi, to show you that this administration is willing to put one narrative out there that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense and hope that you buy into the optics of it, not the logic of it. And it's worked before. It's worked particularly throughout the first term, because there was a nice, convenient villain sitting there. Well, that narrative is kind of played and run its course by and large. Every now and then a Republican says something that makes no sense, and it kind of gives the president an opportunity to ride that white horse once again. But when it comes to the economy now, it's his economy. 5 State of the Union addresses have been given at this point in time. We're still seeing stagnant job growth. We're still seeing Wall Street succeed and Main Street fail. And everybody says, well, look at how far Wall Street's come since he's come into office. Yeah, it's had over 100% growth. Of course it has. It was down at 6,000. It was never going to stay at 6,000, or else we would be, we'd all have our shotguns fighting each other for food in the streets. Of course it was going to come back up. And people made an awful lot of money off of that. The problem is people made an awful lot of money and did not hire Americans at the clip that we needed Americans to be hired at. That's leadership. And I won't even fixate on the economy in that regard as we wrap up, other than to focus on the fact that when you say that you are now giving people the freedom to choose between self-sufficiency and government dependency, and you're saying that government dependency is a choice that most people will make, and that's okay because of the new law we put into place, you're no longer talking about the American dream. You're no longer talking about America. And I don't care if you are the granddaughter or grandson of Jim Crow African Americans from Alabama, or you're a Jewish American immigrant from Eastern Europe during World War II, or You came from El Salvador and became a naturalized citizen. I don't care. Everything that is infused in the American dream stems back to self-sufficiency, a belief that you can do it, and America providing you the opportunity to do it with hard work, perseverance, and the eye for opportunity. And when this spin from this White House suggests that these are choices people will make between self-sufficiency and government dependency, and they're going to choose government dependency because of this wonderful new health care law, which, by the way, has trumped getting people back to work, has trumped economic stability for more Americans, has trumped getting people off of food stamps, has trumped stemming down homelessness or the education deficiencies that we're seeing in America. When that's your landmark legislation and nothing else is working out, and now that's not working out, and this is the spin you have to put on it, we're dealing with a brand new America that I just don't like. And you shouldn't like it either. What's your take on this? You know where to find me on Twitter, LennyMcAllister. 2 Facebook walls, same name. Love to get your feedback. Enjoy the rest of your hump day. Try not to get dizzy with this spin, because after all, on that merry-go-round, in that bag, it's not now and laters. It's really a bag of dog poop. And when they light it on fire, you'll be able to tell. Don't ignore your nose, because your nose knows. And I know that I'm looking forward to talking to you again on Thursday. In the meanwhile, you have a wonderful, wonderful hump day. See ya. Talk to you soon. TCNGB. Take care and God bless. Peace.